If you're buying a new car in 2024, you have got a lot of choice. I mean, more than ever before, and that is a good thing because look, if we all like the same thing, it'd be really boring, wouldn't it? So look, today we have 3 cars that are all fairly similar in terms of performance and range and practicality, but in very different packages. So if you fancy yourself an SUV, you can go for this, the new Jeep Avenger. If you like yourself an old school hatchback, maybe I can introduce you to this, which is the MG4 Extended Range. Or if you like the best of both worlds, a bit of both loveliness, you can go for that, the Renault Megane E-Tech. Now I know what you're thinking. We've got 3 cars and only 1 presenter. How on earth are we going to make that work? Look at the Hume number plate. Love that for me. Hiya, hiya. You look a bit cold. Do you want my jacket?
No, it just makes editing difficult, doesn't it? So,
anyway, if you want to subscribe to the Electrifying YouTube channel, that would be blooming lovely. Right, if you're worried about getting to tight spaces, then you might think that the Avenger Summit is the better choice. It's about 20 centimetres shorter than the other 2. That is a lot in car world. It means that it's got the same footprint as something like a VW Polo. It's crazy, right? Price isn't smaller though. It's the most expensive one here at £38,700. Does the powertrain make up for it? No. The single motor has 154 brake horsepower, way down on power compared to the other 2, and that results in a 9-second 0 to 60 time. The 51 kilowatt-hour battery and 100 kilowatt-hour rapid charging doesn't sound great either. But the efficiency of this powertrain means that it has claimed 244 miles of range. That is, yes, a lot less than the other 2, but it makes better use of that power with a 4.78 miles per kilowatt-hour figure. So you'll have to charge more, but spend less.
there's a lot of charm when it comes to the Jeep Avenger. I mean, it's the first electric Jeep. It's just a very pretty thing. And look, if you are a regular viewer of Electrifying.com, then you will know that our head of video, Manos, is obsessed with this car. Manos, I've got a video to get off the car. You're going to scratch it. Get off.
Can I have it?
No.
Why?
Okay, a petition in the comments to let Manos have one of these. Jeep, just get in touch and just give him one because... Welcome to the interior of the Avenger. Now, I'll be honest, there might be moments where you look around this car and you go, it looks and feels a bit cheap, like scratchy plastics on the door and all this sort of rugged stuff. But the rugged word, I think, is the key here. It's kind of the point, isn't it? You want a Jeep to feel rugged. So when you open and close the doors and you see those little bits of splash of outdoor metal on the inside, it kind of works. Adds to its charm, I think, even like with the sort of metal surfaces here. And I do also have to give a shout out to all of the buttons. Lots of lovely buttons. They all work perfectly well. You've got a good shelf here to store your phone. You've also got very decent storage underneath what can only be described as an iPad cover. This will annoy you, can't lie, will annoy you. So if you're going to use one all the time, you're probably just going to have it like that, or you'd probably just take it off like that. But that looks a bit tacky, so let's put that back on. Hold on a minute. There we go. So you're just going to keep it like that. But underneath there, you've got some wireless charging. Got cup storage in here, which apparently you can fit very large milkshakes in, so that's exciting. And then you've got in there, that's tiny. It's very Jeep. It's very Jeep in here.
This top summit trim gets two 10.25-inch displays, which can be configured to your taste. Nice and easy to use. It's got a row of physical buttons for the climate control, so you don't have to prod around to find them. We love that.
Right, the rear seats of the Avenger. This is set up for my driving position and there is no legroom. If someone driving is a little bit taller than me, you just want kids back here, or just people with very, very small top parts of their legs would be the best way to do that. Headroom is really hard to judge because I'm wearing a stupid hat. Headroom. That's all right, actually, isn't it? That's not too bad at all. And then you do have one socket there. The Megane has two. That's just got the one. Oh, and no armrest. Nothing pulls down here.
The Avenger has a 380-litre boot, and you know what? Because of its boxy shape, that big square opening, that high floor, makes it really easy to load in items that are shaped a bit weird.
This is a new experience. I don't think I've ever driven in a hat like this before. It's not illegal, is it, wearing a hat while driving? Be fine. It's very Jeep Avenger-y of me. Do you know what? This car is blooming good fun. It really is. And I mean, as much as I thought it was going to be noisier than the other two, it's not that bad, really. It's not that bad at all. And it's soaking up the lumps and bumps in the road reasonably well. Oh, I can't lie, it does put a smile on your face. It does. Here I am, look, fully smiling. And do you know what adds to that smile? The indicator noise. This thing wins all of the competitions against all of the cars, like in the history of the world, because it's basically dirty beats. Yeah. Right, so this is the slowest of the three, and I'll be honest, you really have to be in sport mode to feel the power of it a little bit, and it does feel sluggish from time to time. Like, you can feel the sluggishness if you're on the motorway, etc., trying to overtake. It doesn't have that instant feeling that the MG4 and that the Renault Megane has, but even though it is slower, it's more fun than the other two. It just is. I think it's the size of the car that makes it more fun, and the fact that it is a Jeep Avenger. Regen braking. Unfortunately, this car is the weakest of the three because you don't have the different levels of regen braking. You just have the one button, which is this one down here, where you press it and you put it in B mode, and it basically just gives you a little bit of feedback, a little bit of breakage when you lift your foot off the accelerator, but it's not full one pedal driving, and you can't change the levels of it. So, which is a bit of a shame, especially if you are, like me, a huge fan of one pedal driving. But I guess that's just something that you're just going to have to get used to if you just love the charm of the car.
Oh, and let's not forget that this is a Jeep, so there is at least a nod to its off-road ability. Avengers get Select Terrain, which lets you choose the off-road surface that you're on so that the car's electronic systems can be adjusted to make the most of available traction. It has reasonable ground clearance as well, but it is only front-wheel drive and it can't tow anything either.
I mean, on paper, the MG basically has it sewn up, doesn't it? This is the extended range version. Bigger battery, 77 kilowatt hours, and a claimed range of 323 miles.
That is the biggest battery here, and the longest range for the cheapest price. Currently £36,495. It's also got more power, 241 brake horsepower, and the fastest 0 to 60 time, 6.5 seconds. If you don't need all that range for the same price, you can swap the battery capacity for power with the X-Power. Yeah, that has 429 brake horsepower and genuinely will worry supercars. The 0 to 60 in that is 3.8 seconds.
Woo! Whoa! Whoa! We're at 60!
But today, we're being sensible.
Speaking of sensible, plenty of space here in the front and in the back. I'll be honest, it feels more airy than the Megane, and actually visibility is much better than the Megane as well. But look, in here, it's not the sexiest interior. It's really not. It's very basic, but it does what it does, and everything seems to work very nicely. Look at this storage down here, loads down here. What's going on in here? Bit more in there. Door bins are pretty decent. You've got wireless charging because this is the top spec trophy trim. So you get things like heated steering, heated seats. You've got the 360-degree camera, the wireless charging thing that I just mentioned, a Bluetooth key, which is basically the same that you get in a Tesla. So it's all very fancy and lovely. I have to give a shout out to the nice screen to button ratio because I'm not a big fan of too much screenage and everything being within the screen. But everything along the buttons works really well. Sometimes this gets a bit faffy. Little things like the radio station, like you'll go to tap on that and it just takes a while to load things up, which can get a little bit annoying. So we've found it's actually easier if you press the voice activation button and say, turn on the radio. It's just a little bit easier.
And there's no wireless CarPlay in this one, whereas the other two do.
Back seats, like I said, airier than the Megane, but look at this. little nice cute pockets for your phone. You've only got the one USB-C charge port down there, but look, you do tend to lose space when it comes to the boot. So that's actually got a smaller boot even than the Avenger. That's got 363 litres. And a lot of the boot back there, I'll be honest, feels a bit cheap. Like you can see a lot of the metal, which makes it feel a little bit meh.
Charging, well, the MG peaks at 144 kilowatts on a DC. That's about 40 minutes to 80%. That's not too bad. But it is a bigger battery than the others here. The efficiency is 4.19 miles per kilowatt hour, which seems pretty good, but is actually the lowest here. So you'll spend more on power to run the MG.
Wow, I mean, this has got plenty of power, isn't it? I'll be honest, this is pretty fun. It doesn't feel as nimble as the Avenger, but this is way more fun than the Megane. It's rear-wheel drive, and I get the temptation to chuck this one about a little bit more, I'll be honest. But also at the same time, this feels heavy. Like you can really feel the weight of this car, do you know what I mean? There is a lot of wind noise going on here. The window's done up. Can you hear the wind? It's like a whistle. Surely that's not the fans. That can't be the fans. The fans are off. There's a lot of whistly wind noise there, which do you know what? I never experienced in the X-Power, so I'm wondering if it's just this particular car. That's quite weird. Yeah, see, it doesn't feel as sophisticated as the Megane. That just kind of feels more gentle, and then the Avenger is just a bit more fun. This is kind of a middle ground with a bit more power, and the rear-wheel drive thing just adds to the excitement of it, really. I do have to say the downfall of this car is unfortunately the indicator noise. I don't want to be that person that talks about indicator noises all the time, but when it is satisfying, it's lovely. And when it's horrible and ticky, it's horrible. Listen to this. I don't like that. No, it's too ticky. That's way too ticky. Not a fan of that. Oh, I do have to mention though, this vehicle does have vehicle to load. The other two don't have that, but this does. So it will give you 2.2 kilowatts. So if you're like in a field or something and you need to boil a kettle, go for your life. Love that for you. Yeah, the driving position in this is also a little bit higher up, so I feel a bit taller, which is weird when this is the smaller car of the three, or the shorter car of the three. I feel a little bit higher up. I'm not complaining about that. Regen braking in this is actually fairly decent, so you can customize these buttons here. So we've made the regen braking this button here. So if I press it there, it will go up a level. Press it there, it will go up another level. But if you go through the menu, so if I go to car on the menu, then I can do driving, one pedal driving, boom. Yeah, great. Full one pedal driving. That's nice. That's a win for this car. That is a win. But a downside is definitely that there is a whistle going on. Listen to that whistle! That's so bad. And finally we have the Megane. Have we saved the best till last? Well, let's take a little look at the stats. I mean, on paper, this ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't it? It's got a very decent 60 kilowatt hour battery and a range of 280 miles. And for my money, I think it's the best looking car of the lot, isn't it?
We've got the interestingly named Iconic model on test today, which costs £38,495, but you can get a more basic model without losing out on range for £4,000 less. So, what do you get for your cash? Well, in terms of performance, the Megane comes with a 220 brake horsepower motor that drives the front wheels. It's a second slower than the MG to 62, but still plenty quick enough to win the old traffic light Grand Prix. Charging, it can take a rapid DC charge at up to 130 kilowatts, and it comes with 22 kilowatt AC charging as standard. That might not sound like much, but actually it's a really useful thing to have and can seriously reduce charging times if you're able to hook up to a 22 kilowatt slow charger.
I mean, it's all very pleasant in here. There are a few bits that I need to pick up on, which we'll talk about later, but the first thing I need to mention is the driving position. I mean, you can chop and change this seat in any way you want. You can move the steering wheel around, and I'll be honest, at electrifying.com, we are all different shapes and sizes, and everyone that has sat in this car has had a lovely time.
Which I prefer the Avenger.
Shut up, Manos. Anyway, fit and finish. I mean, in here, everything feels way more premium than the other two. I mean, the quality of everything. You've got like suede finish on the door, bit of double stitching going on down here, and I have to give a shout out to the steering wheel. It's very satisfying to hold. I like that.
The infotainment system uses an Android automotive operating system, so the whole look and feel will be familiar if you're used to an Android phone. It works really quickly, and it's got all of the familiar apps. And don't worry, Apple devotees, CarPlay is integrated as well, so you'll still be able to use all of your familiar apps.
Okay, a couple of things that we need to mention. First things first is this shelf here, which doesn't affect me because I am of average height. However, Mike from Electrifying.com, with his wonderfully beautiful model legs, says that he whacks his knee on there quite a lot, so he's not a fan of that shelf. Point number 2 is the digital mirror, which, so you flip it between the two, but I can tell you now, you're not going to use that. Like, there's a camera at the back, but you're not going to use that. Just use the normal mirror. There is no point in that whatsoever. Oh, and third point, if you've never driven a Renault or a Dacia before, just in case you were wondering, the volume control is down there.
There's plenty of storage everywhere, and by moving the gear selector onto the steering wheel column, there's loads of space for whatever kind of junk and knick-knackery that you like to travel around with.
Back here, it's all right. I mean, that is set up for my driving position, and knee room is just okay, really. And I'll be honest, my knees feel quite high up. It feels like the seat is low and the floor is high. Obviously, the battery is underneath the floor, but you can really feel that in here. But look, the quality is still very nice back here. You've got a couple of USB-C charge ports down there. I mean, it's perfectly fine. I don't think your passengers are going to complain, really.
Now, the Megane actually has the biggest boot here, with 440 litres.
But it's a bit deep. Like, that's really fiddly when it comes to suitcases and shopping and stuff and lifting and things. So, I'll be honest, this thing is really lovely to drive. I can't complain about this car. I really can't. I mean, you hardly feel the lumps and bumps in the road, if I'm honest. And when you do throw it around a corner, which I do occasionally do, it doesn't roll as much as you might expect it to. Like, it doesn't kind of lean from side to side, which is just blooming marvellous. Steering also, I have to give a shout out to, because you can feel the weight behind it, which is just great. I love it when there's a bit of feel to the steering, because you feel like you're fully connected to the car. You feel like you are connected to the wheels and you have a bit more control over things. So big shout out to that. We also have the regen braking, of which we technically have 4 levels of regen braking. So you've got the flappy paddles, right, behind the steering wheel. If I flap all the way to the right, boom, 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 boom. Right, so now I have no regen braking on whatsoever, so it's a bit like you take your foot off the accelerator and you're just coasting. And then, if you go up a level, you can feel a little bit of weight there. Just a little bit, very subtle, very subtle. Up another level. Okay, that now feels like when you just press the B on the Jeep Avenger. So there's a bit of regen. You can feel the difference when you take your foot off the accelerator. You can feel it braking slightly. But then if you go all the way to the left on the final notch, boom, that's lovely. That is braking really nice. I'd use that in town. You can save a lot of range on that if you're going to use that around town. Stunning. Beautiful. Well done, Renault. Lovely. Okay, so my head is going with the MG, but the problem is you can kind of see where they've saved money because of the battery. I mean, the Jeep is fun, right? But the thing is, it's got the shortest range and it's a bit slow and feels a bit expensive, doesn't it? Well, I mean,
the Megane. It just feels like a cut above the rest, doesn't it, in terms of quality and sophistication. So,
Well, one of us has got to make a decision. So.
oh,
Megane wins, hands down.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Good.
Yeah. I don't know about you lot, but I'm exhausted. So.